Happiny, Chansey, and Blissey are now available in Pokemon Sleep, and this has been quite the exciting thing for a lot of us. And in this video, we will cover some basic knowledge that will help you decide whether or not your Happiny is the right one to raise, whether to prioritize ingredient finding subskills or skill trigger subskills, and why people are so excited about eggs. So the first thing I'll cover is the fact that this is the first Pokemon that has a skill energy for everyone that isn't a skill-based Pokemon. And if you guys are coming from my previous video, Healers 101, then you will know right now that there are 4 core healers in the game: Gardevoir, Pawmot, Sylveon, and Wigglytuff. And these 4 Pokemon are skill-based Pokemon. And the unique thing about skill specialty Pokemon are that they are the only specialty that are able to do a double trigger. So now that we got that out of the way, and we know that the Chansey line is a ingredient specialty Pokemon, this means that you will not be able to use your Blissey or Chansey as a replacement for your healer right now. If you take a look at this page over here with me on Rain on X, you will see that for this skill energy for everyone, Gardevoir performs the best, averaging at around 3.72 procs per day. And at the very end of this list, it is no surprise that you will find Happiny, Chansey, and Blissey. Blissey averaging 1.63 procs a day, doing even worse than an Igglybuff at 1.95. So what this tells us, and probably the most important thing, because I know for a lot of you, you might have been drilled in your head that energy for everyone is a very good skill, you should always have a healer. To answer the question whether or not you should be using main skill seeds, please do not use a main skill seed on the Chansey line. Your main skill seed will go much further using it on an actual healer, and when I say an actual healer, I'm considering the fact that it is a skill specialty Pokemon, which the Chansey evolution line is not, because it's an ingredient specialty. So we knocked that out of the way, and now that we know that, we are able to answer the question, should we prioritize ingredient finding subskills or skill trigger subskills? So let's take a look at this page over here and discuss on whether you should focus on ingredient finding subskills and natures or skill trigger subskills and natures. I know it might be tempting for you guys because of the energy for everyone skill to see whether or not you can bump up your Blissey to make it usable. So for the purpose of seeing with our own eyes whether it is worth raising a Happiny that has skill trigger subskills and a main skill chance up, we are going to be looking at this Blissey over here. These are the subskills that I put on it, and the nature is Sassy. And if you take a look over here at level 60, you can expect your Blissey to proc its skill 3 times a day. But do remember, it is an ingredient specialty Pokemon, so it will not double trigger. It is also worth to note that at level 60, even with the skill trigger subskills and main skill chance up nature, it still would be ranked lower than Gardevoir. Now let's take a look at Gardevoir. If it has the same subskills and nature as the Blissey we just looked at, what is it going to look like in terms of procking? So for this Gardevoir, if we have the same subskills and natures that we put on our example Blissey, you will see over here the numbers jump from 3 to 7. So this Gardevoir at level 60 would be averaging 7 main skill procs a day. On top of the fact that it is a skill specialist, it has a chance to double trigger. So this pretty much further proves that you should not be using a main skill seed on a Blissey, use it on a dedicated healer. So that should answer your question on whether or not you should be looking for a Happiny that has ingredient finding subskills or skill trigger subskills. I will say though, if your Happiny just so happens to have ingredient finding and skill trigger subskills on it, it's still good to use. That skill trigger subskill will encourage it to proc more often, but you should never look at it as a way to take over the spot of your main healer. It should be considered like a vitamin. It's a nice to have. It will bump up performance a little bit overall in your day, but it shouldn't take over the need to eat actual food in order to get vitamins and minerals. So with the Chansey line being an ingredient finder, I sort of have the same headspace I have towards it when it comes to the Kanto starters, who are also ingredient finding Pokemon, but who have the main skill Ingredient Magnet. Ingredient Magnet is a skill that I like, especially when I was early game, because it just provided you with a boost of ingredients that are a little harder to come by when you're early game. But because the Kanto starters are ingredient specialists, you shouldn't be prioritizing main skills on them either, and your focus should be ingredient finding natures and subskills, and skill triggers would be a good bonus or a nice to have. So when it comes to Chansey being an energy for everyone, that's the same lens I look at it through. where ingredient finding is what you should put the forefront of your focus on for farming eggs. And energy for everyone just makes it that much more usable during your day-to-day, because that extra skill trigger that you get on top of the heals you're getting for your main healer just makes it easier for you to top off your Pokemon at 150 energy, which then allows you to retire your main healer and use that spot for another Pokemon instead. So that would be the strategy that I would encourage you guys to think about when it comes to Chansey. So if you happen to find a Happiny that has ingredient finding and skill triggers on it, that is great. But if you have two Happinys and one has only ingredient finding subskills and the other has only skill trigger subskills, you should go for the one with ingredient finding. Reason being is that with the introduction of the Chansey line, the meta for eggs has shifted a little bit. So previously, people had been using Delibird and Abomasnow to farm eggs. And if you were very unlucky like me and you weren't able to find a Delibird because it is 16 pips to befriend, or maybe you just didn't make your way to the tundra and find a good Snover to raise into an Abomasnow that has eggs, then you find yourself in a situation where you are in a little bit of an egg shortage. And up until now, personally for me, because I didn't have a usable Delibird or Abomasnow, I was actually using an Ampharos because my Ampharos had double eggs. And if you look at this list over here, Ampharos on average would be producing 23 eggs a day. And then comes along the Chansey line. So what does this mean for new players like you guys who may be watching? Well, you don't have to suffer like I did trying to find a Delibird and then having to chase it down to feed it in order to befriend it, because 16 pips is quite a bit and it's going to require a good amount of biscuits to befriend it. On top of hoping that it's not going to get full, maybe it's going to come hungry, maybe get a mega hit, but there's so many maybes. So farming a good Delibird is going to take a lot of time and patience, and I just was not lucky in that department. The other thing to consider about Delibird is that this is a Pokemon that does not evolve, which means it doesn't benefit from the carry limit increase that happens when Pokemon are able to evolve. Delibird has a base carry limit of 20, and this only really becomes an issue if you don't check into your game often to collect the ingredients and berries from your Pokemon. So once your Delibird's inventory is full, you actually miss out on any eggs that it could be collecting. Snover as well, I actually don't find myself in the tundra often, but I know some peers who were able to find a really good egg farming Snover who they've raised into an Abomasnow, and that's been doing pretty good for them. Even though I am not a new player, I've been playing since a little around release date, I'm very excited about the Happiny line coming out because this means that I get to cover one of my pain points, which is egg farming. And as you can see over here, Blissey now is top spot for egg farming, averaging at 68 eggs per day. And what makes it even greater is that Happiny is a baby Pokemon, so befriending Happiny only requires 5 pips. If you compare it to Snover, Snover's first ingredient is a tomato, whereas Happiny's first ingredient is an egg. So a mono egg Pokemon, there's 2 evolutions for it, so you benefit from the carry limit increase as well as the main skill that levels up to further save you from spending main skill seeds, because you should not be using main skill seeds on it. And the reason why I'm particularly happy about this is because as you progress in the game and you come to a spot like where I am, where my pot size is at 60, if you have dessert week, one of the dishes you can make is the Jigglypuff fruit flan with a 55 pot space. But that requires a bit of eggs, so if you don't have the eggs for it, it might not be something you're able to make on the daily, which was actually my issue. So I had to settle for dishes that are lower in strength because I had the Pokemon that were able to provide me with those ingredients. And my Ampharos was just not producing enough eggs for me to make the Jigglypuff fruit flan 3 times a day during dessert week. On my salad and curry week, I don't find myself needing eggs that often, but there are new salad dishes, so that might change things for me moving forward. I highly invite you to watch Velocity Raptor 22's video. In the beginning of his analysis, he talks about why it might be worth your time to invest in an AAB or an AAC Happiny. So egg potato or egg honey. And he does a really good job at covering the dishes that those ingredient lists will cover for you, and I highly recommend you check that out. If you watched this video and you're feeling pretty confident with the knowledge you have, I now invite you to watch Bropening's video on Chansey versus Blissey and why you may want to hold off on evolving your Chansey all the way into a Blissey. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on future videos.